Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Anytime you're looking at this or watching this on a YouTube, welcome to another episode of Talks with the Tax Cop. Y'all, this is like, anybody can see my face. I'm so overjoyed, right? So I knew that I was going to have this conversation with my guest today a long time ago. Like, this is 2 years in the making, right? I knew I was going to have this conversation. I just didn't know when I was going to have the conversation. And I'm so glad that we're having it now. And y'all will find out as we go into this conversation why this is. My guest for today is none other than my sister in love, Miss Angie Rorrer. I'm going to give y'all some background on who she is before she breaks through and gives y'all an understanding of who she is, right? She happens to be a breakthrough strategist. And she's going to break that down for y'all and explain what it is. Because y'all like, breakthrough strategist? Like, what kind of conversation is this? Is this going to be like woozy, new age? No. All right. This is one of these people who knows her assignment. Knows her assignment comes from on high. Is on several different, what they will call mountains, right? So she's like straddling different mountains. Like she's in ministry. She's in media. She's in business, like those type of mountains, and kind of God gave her an assignment to like do a collage or a hodgepodge of it all. So she's gonna explain to y'all what that means and what that looks like, how it sounds. But I want to explain to you how we met. We met in a mastermind setting, right? And the interesting part of it is we never did a breakout group in this virtual mastermind or nothing like that. But God gave me a dream early on in the panini. Y'all like the panini, right? The thing, the C word in a 19, right? Early on. And then he gave it, I woke up and was like, what in the world? What do this mean? And he said specifically, reach out to Angie. And I'm like, gosh, you don't think I'm crazy. We ain't never talked for real. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a collaborative session. I ain't never had no one-on-one. And I think I hit you up on Instagram and was like, I got in the DMs. Y'all, I hit her in her DMs. I went in her DMs and was like, I got something I got to tell you. God said, tell you this. And she did not blink. She said, all right. All right, here go my information. Text me, this, that, and the other. And ever since then, like, I'm like, she gonna think I'm crazy. She did not. She said, okay, this makes sense. And she said, you know what? We need to get on the Zoom. We need to talk. So this is a person that hears her on assignments from on high, gets the assignments, do what she's supposed to do, execute, and move out. She actually is the reason why y'all even are listening to a podcast today. Y'all don't understand. When she say strategy, we've been planning this podcast for 2 years. All the stuff I'm getting ready to release, Angie was the one who, like in our sessions, be like, girl, you need to do this, and such and such and such and such, and you need to do, when you gonna do this, and stop asking for, and stop giving this away, everything, right? So we were working in the trenches this whole time, and once it comes into play, it manifests, okay? So this is why I want y'all, this is why I say this time is now. With the things that are shifting in the economy, that are shifting in the world, people don't know what's going on. We got an Inflation Reduction Act, all this stuff. And I was like, God, when we gonna collide, right? So we can talk and y'all can get an authentic conversation with us, because y'all, it's been months since I talked to my good girlfriend.
Way too long.
We've been trying to coordinate this. So this is going anywhere. Anybody who can look on the YouTube, whatever, I need y'all to look at. She done got pretty for me. Her nails is done. Her eyelashes is on. Her lipstick is on. She really is doing some great things. And if y'all aren't, go look for her on Instagram and Facebook, because the stuff she's talking about right now on Instagram and Facebook about divorce in the church and a whole bunch of other stuff, even though we don't talk, I watch my sister, okay? Y'all, she's real. She's transparent. This is my lovely, authentic, just genuine introduction. Angie, you know how much I love you. You know how much I've missed you. So let's jump into it.
Sounds great to me.
I pray that I did a decent introduction.
Oh, that was a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I don't think I've ever had that good of an introduction. You set the expectation high.
Come on now. So anybody else that get it from here on out, y'all got to meet the mark. That's right. Mark of the tax cop. Need to market a tax cop. Okay.
That's right.
So explain to the people before we get into anything, like why you refer to yourself or why God gave you that breakthrough strategist.
Okay. Yes, God gave me breakthrough strategist, and I also sometimes use the word prophetic solutionist as well, depending on. But as a breakthrough strategist, that is something that is like in my core. I am after the breakthrough. I have the ability to see what's going on, and then we seek the strategy to get the breakthrough where you're going, whether that be in business, whether that be in your personal life and your spiritual life. And so it can look differently depending on the person and what we're doing. But, we're going to look at the big picture in your life and in your business, and even look at your trauma, because I also had that trauma-informed approach to see where you are hitting roadblocks, whether it's in your own mindset, whether it is a spiritual thing that also needs to be handled, because whatever's going on in the natural is always going on in the spirit as well. Of course, some of my clients are not into spiritual things. So I will talk about God and I will bring up the spirit, and I don't believe people have to think like I do. Right. Just don't worry, because I'm going to mention it, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for God. I would not be alive today.
Got it.
So, and I also, because I hit the hard topics, I've been addressing, like you mentioned, divorce, abuse, and what the Bible actually says and what's going on in the church. I'm going to tip over those sacred cows. I make a lot of religious people mad, but that's okay, because we all about Jesus. We ain't about their religious doctrine.
Come on.
And, so I'm going to get outside of the box. If I'm working with you when it comes to your business or your ministry or whatever's going on in your life, and all of that is intertwined. Even when I'm helping somebody with their business, the personal comes into it. You can't separate it.
Come on,
you can't.
Let's stop right there, because you want a nugget, y'all. She fire hosing us early. This is why I love talking to my sis, right? Because you're absolutely right. We try to, what makes us think that we can compartmentalize? I don't care if you own a business, if you somebody employee, you looking for a job, you a student. What makes us try to separate ourselves and not look at ourselves as, this is me as I take myself into each one of these realms?
Right. Well, I think a lot of it, one is, people's insecurity, for one. They tend to be a little bit more people pleasing in a lot of aspects, because especially in business, because you want to make money. The problem is when you come at business or anything in life and you are looking at your bottom line dollars, you're going to actually hinder yourself. You have to realize that in order to lead people properly, you have to be going after, with all your might, who you are as a person, because you as a person is the one that shows up in business and ministry and the community and your home and your family. And if you have this separatist mentality where, like, at home you're one way, at church you're another way, at work you're another way, and then when you're with the family you're another way, because there's all kind of toxicity there that you tolerate because you've been made to believe that you have to. And we live with these different hats and we think it's okay, but we are often betraying ourselves when we do this. And, that's the problem, is I can't be fooling me if I'm wearing different hats and meeting expectations. And what is the fear of being fully you? Are people not going to like you? Oh, well, duh. Actually, what we want to do is we want to repel those that don't like us. And those that are called to our voice and to our passion and what we have to offer are the people we should be talking to. We don't need to be liked by everyone. And sometimes, demons, they just get mad at stuff. And I always say that if people start manifesting and running their mouth around you, that you're going in the right direction, because, hey, if nobody's fussing, you might be walking with the demons. So,
I got a side right here because I can't even unpack all of what you just said. I need y'all to rewind this right here, because really, she hit on that. She hit on the fact that when you in business and you looking at dollars, that'll take you off and it'll turn you to somebody else. Instead of focusing on the mission and who you're supposed to be and going after with what she said, with all you got to do what you're supposed to, because what happens when we go after everything we're supposed to? Everything fall in line. God take care of everything that's supposed to be taken care of.
That's right.
Stuff get paid, people come, everybody needs get met when you do what you're supposed to do. When the focus is shifted. Now, she didn't say don't make no money. All right. So this is not no.
No. You're gonna make a lot of money.
Right. She ain't say nothing about not making no money. She said when the focus comes off of the profits or the bottom line, and it's dealing with you showing up authentically and doing what you're supposed to do, everything fall in play. And then when she talks about us being different people in different locations with different folks, and instead of just being who we are, dealing with who we are and not apologizing for it, y'all.
Oh, come on.
How often, especially as women, so this is like, I don't want, because my husband gets on me for this a lot. He said, don't just say women, say people. Wherever you've grown up, where you feel like I have to accommodate for everyone else before I accommodate for myself. That makes us what I like to call spiritual schizophrenics.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why stuff don't feel right and all this kind of stuff, because we didn't put on an act everywhere else when we show up. That joint just can't happen. It take us in it's a whole lot that happens for us to unpack. Right? So I love the fact that you because we know we've been on this journey, right? Where people have tried to box you. You know where I'm going, where people have tried to box Angie in and say, you have to niche down and you have to do this. And God has told you to deal with the whole individual. Now, mind you, she's not doing this from no spiritual stance. So anybody looking her up, understand the coaching and stuff, this breakthrough strategist, this prophetic solutionist, this is her business. So y'all might be like, oh, Patrice done got real Jesus on here. Patrice always been real Jesus. She's always loved the Lord. That's the third person. And, you know, I tell people, we got a silent partner, okay? Jesus show up in everything I do, even if I'm not spewing them out. But she has a business where she's like, all right, let me deal with you at the whole. We are we're triumphant. We're triumphant beings, right? We threefold.
Yes.
Flesh, spirit, soul.
Right.
And so essentially what you're saying is, as a breakthrough strategist, you don't deal with just one aspect. Because a lot of times you go to coaches and life coaches and they only deal with one aspect. You will tackle it from, all right, I'm going to deal with, I don't care what your religion is. I'm going to deal with you from the spirit. I'm going to deal with you from the soul. I'm going to deal with you from the flesh. So we can unpack everything that's happening or has happened to you to get you to where you want to go.
And it often just comes out because, for example, if I can give you all the strategies of what you need to do for your marketing and your web page and your sales pages, and I teach all of that, to especially for coaches and consultants and trainers and people that want to do a lot of virtual things. You can do them in person as well. But let's say I'm giving you strategy on posting on social media. And there is, I had this one client that when she first started posting, she had some bad experiences in the past with Instagram. So when she started posting, she was very mousy. She was very toned down. She was very quiet. And she was not allowing her personality to show through because of that fear. So I'm like, okay, so what is going on with you? So once we unpacked what was going on with her, she was able to see where that past hurt, trauma, whatever you want to call it, was keeping her from effectively, because we all have those fears and those insecurities. And sometimes you just got to do it in spite of it. I say courage is spelled R-I-S-K. It really is.
That's a t-shirt, Angie. That's a t-shirt. That's a t-shirt. I'm always trying to get a t-shirt from everything.
That's actually a good idea, because I do t-shirts. Yeah. And so once they have an understanding and they process through, and then, you know, sometimes people have more things they need to process through as they're going, but that's what it is. Self-growth is a journey. So when, you know, and I speak from experience, so I'm not teaching people anything that I haven't already lived. Years ago, I was in an abusive marriage for many years. I was people pleaser. My emotions got shoved down to the point that I had health issues because it was about everybody else and their needs. And coming out of that and realizing how much I lost myself, it wasn't that I didn't do things successfully during that process. I did, but I wasn't fully me. And then being able to really realize to open my mouth and release what I have, because we often will get in our head and we'll get that imposter syndrome and things like that. But you have to fall in love with you. You know, because I was abusing myself even. It's like I had to start treating myself like a friend rather than an enemy, with self-criticism and trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And, you know, sometimes procrastination, where a lot of these coaches will talk about procrastination and how to stop it and everything. Most of the time, procrastination comes from some kind of trauma, usually from childhood, that has, and it's you're overwhelmed, or you have a fear of failure, fear of success, and it becomes a self-sabotaging behavior. And you're beating yourself up for procrastinating, and you're just procrastinating more. Right. And so it wasn't until I learned how to realize that I am my own best advocate and really treat myself as a friend rather than an enemy that I was able to break out of those things, because now I was taking it on in a whole new way.
So you said you did it through anyway, right?
Yeah.
How, and I don't want you to give up no, you know, signature secrets.
Yeah.
But somebody who's listening to this and they say, yo, that's me. She's all over exactly how I feel. What are some of the first things they need to do before they even reach out to you? What are some of the things that a person needs to do? And when do they know? So twofold, when do they know, yep, I probably should do a session with a breakthrough strategist?
Yeah. Well, it will look different for different people, but on the whole, one of the things you need to do is we need to get real about what's going on with us. But too many people will either be in denial, or the other side, they criticize themselves so much they can't even see the good. And everybody, no matter how secure you are, we often will not recognize the greatness within us to the extent that other people see. And so that's, you know, and even we'll struggle to take a compliment because we don't believe that about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so you have to get really real about, do I believe in myself? Okay, if I don't, then why? Okay, and just kind of why yourself and dig deeper. Too often we stop at the surface and we don't really look. Now, sometimes people honestly don't know. They need somebody, and this is the key. A lot of times, in order to break through that, especially if you don't have any of those tools to understand how to operate and figure some of these things out, you really need somebody that knows how to ask the right questions and get you to dig where you didn't even know you needed to dig. So that's really key. So, you know, you look at what's going on and you say, okay, I want this to be accomplished. What do I need to do to get there? And if you keep running up against the wall, you really need to, instead of just beating yourself up and saying, I can do this on my own, you know what? We are better together than we are individually. If you want to go fast, you might be able to go alone and do it. But if you want to build foundation that sticks, that will, for longevity, you really need to have somebody come in with you to help get you in that direction.
I've never heard it, and maybe it's just because, you know, I'll take somebody coaching in a minute.
Yeah.
I've never heard it necessarily put that way. that coaching and instructing and that type of thing, like, because I know I'll buy a course if I want to learn something really quickly. And you're right. When we don't even think about us doing self-development, that coaching as a foundation to help us get there faster. We'll just, in the church, we'll just pray it away. We'll just let the pastor go to the altar, and I'm going to leave it at the altar. I'll let somebody lay hands on me. I'll do this, that, and the other, instead of actually making that investment and saying, you know what? Some of this is a block that I just can't get through any other way. Let me go help get somebody else to really, what you're doing is facilitate that. Because in my mind, I'm grinning, but facilitate that process, right?
Right.
It reminds me of, y'all, and that's old school. That lets you know where I came when they talk about something. Well, let's go. We're gonna pray all night and we're gonna tarry through, right? I'm gonna help you tarry through and birth this thing. That let you know where I kind of grew up, right?
Yeah.
And honey, we until it break loose off of you.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And we, even though that's, that gets to some of the religion and stuff like that, it really is, all right, let me take you into a safe space.
Yeah.
Deal with you where you are, help you break through, like really like dig deep and get through that stuff so that we can parlay you to that next phase, whatever is blocking you.
Yeah. And that's really pivotal. One of the things that many people, especially when, money's tight and you're building your business and they won't invest in themselves. The thing is if you will invest in a coach and in somebody to walk with you in the process, and the goal, now let me clarify this. Too many coaches want to raise up people that are codependent. That's a no-no. We want to raise up people that are independent and able to function without us, or else I have not been successful if you're codependent. Too many coaches just want you to stay with them forever. And sometimes, like my experience, I've had different coaches in different seasons, because sometimes one coach can only take you so far, and then you need somebody that's gone further so that they can take you through the next step. And especially in business, hitting 6 figures is one, but going 7 and 8 is a totally different type of person. And there's things that have to be done in order to hit those. And so when you get somebody like that I always make sure I have coaching. We have, we do a lot. Yeah. Because it sharpens us. It helps us. You'll say something that I already know, but you'll say it in a different way and something will click. I'll feel it and I'll be like, oh my God, I didn't think of it in that terms. And that's why we're better, stronger together, because you have different experiences and insights, and even the way your mind works. Although you and I are similar in some ways, there's also some differences, and we complement by, I'll say something, you'll be like, oh my gosh, and the same thing. So that's something that we need. A coach is somebody that is going to give you the tools, give you the wisdom, and also be your cheerleader to do it, but you still have to do it. And it's like, I have clients at times that they know what to do as far as business, the website stuff, the sales pages, the social media, paying for marketing. Maybe there's some things that need to be tweaked to be more successful, but they are floundering because they know all this information, but they don't know where to start. They have too many things they want to do and they don't know how to get started. And it causes this freeze response and a kind of thing. So, and then when you get into that whole beating yourself up thing, you can't move forward. I've lived it. I know the start, the stop, the start, the stop, the do something successful and then, not be consistent. And, so I've walked through it. I've struggled through it, coming out of a long-term abusive marriage, undoing all of that trauma. It's a process. Right. And I have found out that the more I get healed, the better I am in my business.
I love it. You also mentioned previously that, and I've never heard anybody admit this, being in an abusive relationship, you abused yourself.
Yeah.
How did you recognize that you were abusing? And maybe somebody else caused it something different, but how did you recognize, hey, you know what? Yeah, I understand that I'm in this situation, but I'm also keeping it going because I'm abusing myself.
Yeah.
How did you recognize that?
Well, depending on the person, I was like, something flashed up and said, "You've been logged out." And I'm like, "I'm still on Zoom." Okay. Now I lost my train of thought.
You good.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't matter what kind of abuse. And this is something that really needs to talked more about. There are intimate partners, whether it's in marriage or boyfriend, girlfriend, or girlfriend, boy, that any kind of relationship, parents. I have a lot of people that have narcissistic parents, toxic, abusive, and there's a lot of verbal and emotional damage that gets done that people, if not educated, don't even recognize as abuse, especially if you've been raised in a family that yelling and calling names or things of that sort is normal. And that is the definition of love. Chaos ends up becoming what you think love is, and that's just, we get programmed. And 90% of what we do, we operate out of our subconscious.
True.
So, automatically, if something goes wrong, my mind automatically, without me even trying, can automatically start looking at where I'm at fault. And so it takes time and awareness to actually catch that and stop it and then rewire it so it doesn't naturally happen all the time. And so for many years, 27 of them is how long I was in that abusive marriage, 30 altogether, because we dated for 3 years before we got married. I didn't even recognize what was being done to me as abuse because of, one, some of the way I was raised. I actually, when I was dating my ex, I actually thought I was marrying up because he didn't call me the names my father would call my mother. But then what I realized is actually what he did was worse because it was more covert. And so through gaslighting and things like that, you start to take on, whether it's from parents, and a lot of mothers and fathers, there's a lot of damage done by parents like that or family members. And then you're guilted if you want to cut that off, which is healthy for you. So I have a lot of people that have that issue with parents and other family members, but you start to subscribe to what they're saying. Even if you say, they said this and I'm going to prove them wrong. But inside, there's part of you that doesn't even realize. Maybe you say it differently to yourself, but it's still the same belief. And so what ends up happening is you perpetuate it by, one, deciding that everything is always your fault. And that if you could just do this better, if you could just do that better, if you could, behave this way better, or if you could do more in your business this way, that it would make everything better. But you're sitting here beating yourself up, which of course is going to stagnate you because you're critical. That's the mistake we make. And I know what I'm saying isn't easy, just to interrupt those thoughts, but I'm telling you, it's so possible, and you can. The problem is you're believing lies. We have this false identity. And so what happened was, as I started learning through counseling with a therapist and reading and educating myself, I recognized that I was being abused after many years of not understanding that. Now, I will tell you, most of it was emotional and verbal, but in the early years, especially, there was enough physical that he didn't have to beat me. But I also didn't look at some of what was being done as physical, backing me up in the corner with his fist drawn, throwing things at me. I didn't consider that physical abuse. We can dismiss a lot and it sounds crazy for me to say this now, but when you're in it, you're literally brainwashed, you're deceived, and you don't know it. And so then I learned that something I had read said that if I kept allowing that treatment of me as a Christian, one, I am enabling them to continue to sin against me. Well, that changed the game, because up to that point, I thought I just needed to submit to my husband, and that if I could be a better wife, I wouldn't get mistreated because I was the problem. Well, whoa, wait a minute. So I'm actually being part of the problem by allowing this and not drawing lines or not leaving. And my life at that point was very much at risk because he was threatening to kill me. There was a lot going on. So it wasn't like, and still, you know, my oldest daughter at the time was 16, and he told her he wanted to kill me. And for 6 months, she kept trying to beg me to leave. And I would say, baby, daddy wouldn't kill me. Now, there were things that were going on that I was scared, but, you know, it's hard sometimes to wrap your head around the fact that somebody that is supposed to love you actually wants to kill you and tries to kill you.
Wow.
And so I was getting abused and I was a victim, being victimized, but I'm not a victim. I have power to change it. Now, you may be scared. It wasn't easy to leave. It was actually harder to leave him than it was to stay in the abuse. I had one of those, you know, really bad situations. Not everybody has that. And I know people that have had it worse than me, you know, so because he's pretty crazy. And, you know, and I've seen some things with other people when they've decided to cut ties with a toxic mother or a toxic father, and that repercussion, you know, comes out. But if I keep allowing it, what am I saying to them? That their behavior is acceptable. And I'm abusing myself by staying in it. Now, the other way you're abusing yourself is when you automatically always decide that there's something wrong with you. And even when you're not in the abuse, you already have taken on that identity. Gotcha. And, you know, in abuse, we'll call it Stockholm syndrome, but it's actually in abuse of relationships. It's called emotional abuse syndrome, but it's the same. Gotcha. You are, you know, in love. And a lot of times there's a trauma bond that is very addictive. I'm not going to get into all that. But I realized that I was actually abusing myself by criticizing myself, you know, constantly trying to fix myself. Right. Instead of saying, you know what, I have survived all this for all this time. I should really be thanking my body and things. And it is difficult sometimes to unwind some of that stuff, because like you wake up in the middle of the night with a panic attack, and you don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And my first inclination is, what's wrong? Why? Stop. I don't want to feel this way. But I actually will perpetuate the anxiety and the panic attack by, what's wrong with me? Why is this happening? And I don't know why it's happening. And I feel like my body's betraying myself. I can't, you know, and people with anxiety and depression, that is a big deal. And so you end up feeding the beast, because the focus is on the beast, not on what you want. And we often, this is in business and in life, if we keep focusing on the negative, we're going to get more negative.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love the explanation, because for me, it's a lot of light bulbs, not just for myself, but for other people, why they stay, why they're in stuff. Because like you said, outside, we may conceive that business partnership, that marriage, that dating relationship. We're outside looking in saying, do you not see it? And you're like, why does the person stay?
Right.
Or why don't they just break time? Like, you know what I'm saying? They could be so much freer, but understanding that mentality. And then also from the other side, I'm looking at it on some stuff that I do. I'm like, why did you focus on this instead of focusing on where you're supposed to be? You know what I'm saying? Just do it. Yeah. Right. So like for me right now, this is the year of just take action. It's my take action year, right? So do it scared. You hear it all the time. Do it scared. But just do it.
Right.
Do what you say you were going to do, even if you miss, because for instance, the podcast, we're supposed to be weekly. On the weeks I miss, hey, I missed it. Get back on it.
Right. Because the moment you start beating yourself up for it, you'll start avoiding it more. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And you got to get back on that pony somehow.
Right.
And make it work. And so, no, I love the fact that you explain so many different cycles that we all go through.
Yes.
And anything that we're dealing with. Man, I have anxiety because I'm supposed to take anybody who's listening to this, if you get ready for a test.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And this, that, and the other. Instead of focusing on the fact that, you know what, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to take the test. I've already prepared for the test. I've done these things. It's really making the outcome that you want your regular talk versus how we talk to ourselves on a regular basis, just society, because all of us are like that. Yes. We, especially, and I think in this day and age, because we have so much automation, we can always focus on a negative. Like, that's what the media sells. All the stuff that you're like, well, why are they not selling the positive? When they highlight like the news, if they highlight all the terrible stuff that's going on because it's supposed to make us feel better. Hey, my life is not that bad. Instead of focusing on all the great stuff, then we are automatically preset to think about all the bad stuff.
We are. I mean, it's the way our design. And if you think about it, part of the thing with the technology and everything where we've made leaps and bounds also can't perpetuate it more. Scrolling through social media, things that you see, like you said, news, anything. So, and we're naturally inclined to see the negative. Part of that is because of a survivalist response. The thing is now we're in a day and age where we get stressed by so many things that our body doesn't know the difference between a lion's chasing me, trying to kill me, and somebody left a hateful comment on my post. And so, you get in this hypervigilance, you get stuck in that fight or flight or fawn or freeze response. And even like I have realized that all of my life I've had ADHD. And there is ADHD paralysis that happens when you're overwhelmed, where you literally shut down. It can look like depression and you don't have any energy. You can't focus. You can't do anything. But it's that paralysis because it looks like a mountain and it's just overwhelming you.
Yeah.
So of course, being able to break things down help us. We have to learn to fall in love with the process. And when I used to hear people say this, I was like, yeah, how do you do that? Right. Because if we always are looking at the goal, then if we're not looking at what we need to do to get there. So if I can say, what are 3 things I need to do each day? So today, what is 3 things I need to do to move the needle forward? The next day, same thing. Now you may have 6 or 7 things on your list, but those top 3 are the 3 things you do first. And if you don't get to anything else, no problem. You still hit those. And if you miss one, the next day you start over. So I learned to start celebrating and validating myself for progress, not perfection, and not I haven't hit the goal yet in the time that I wanted. Now I can beat myself up and be aggravated myself just like the next person.
Yeah.
And I found there was a time I was having a struggle with beating myself up, and I saw a video or something on social media. And the guy mentioned that at night, he always reminds himself, he started doing it when he would have a bad day, but he does it now, whether it's good or bad. And so at night, when I was having bad days, I would say out loud to myself what I was grateful for and what went right that day, because it starts training you to focus on what went right rather than what went wrong. And that is life-changing. Visualization also is a big key, because you have to see yourself. Like if you're going to be a 7-figure CEO of your own company, you have to start seeing yourself as that and operating as that even before you have it. Gotcha. And so little things like that, they just trip us up. And I know it's easy to say, sometimes harder to implement, but that's also why when you break through and you understand the struggle, you also are so good at being able to help others break through that.
Let's talk about you seeing yourself a certain way. So we talked a couple months ago where you realized that even though you're working from home and you're putting your stuff together, you had to pretty yourself up, dress different for where you were going.
Yes.
Even though you're working at home, because a lot of us are working remote, or as entrepreneurs, we got our little small corner or our office, and we like, I might look one way because we on Zoom, right? So I do a lot of Zoom. We might look one way on,
up here,
professional up here. Anything goes down below, right?
Right.
What I want you to share with my audience what that was like. What triggered it for you?
What triggered it for me is, I'm running my own company, but often when we're running a business out of our home, we don't necessarily look at ourselves as the CEO of this business. And so I knew I was a CEO, but what I realized, I knew it up here but I wasn't really owning it and understanding. Because it's a difference. Yeah, I'm a CEO, I own my own company. You downplay it. Wait a minute. No, I am the CEO of my own company. And there is a healthy pride and a healthy way you carry yourself in that. I mean, I can go, I'm that way no matter where I go or how I dress. But I also realized, and there are days that I dress down and I just don't care. But I have also noticed that when I start doing that more, I kind of start that cycle, because you're at home and you can just be comfortable. And I like that fact. I like being able to just not mess with my hair and stuff. Of course, those are always the days that I'm like, I'm not doing any social media videos because, but we have, when you start acting the part and put boundaries on yourself, because that's really, it comes down to holding yourself accountable, but not perfection, because that's the other side, the pitfall of that. So I realized that if I get up like I would be, going anywhere else and get myself together, that I felt a certain way about myself. Now I can feel that way when I'm dressed down, but in that time when I came to this epiphany, I realized that when I dressed up and got all done, I didn't put off doing videos because I didn't have my due done. I felt better about myself. I felt pretty. I felt, and you don't even have to wear a full face of makeup to feel, it's whatever you feel pretty. You don't even have to wear makeup. If you, like my daughter, she very rarely wears makeup and she's on video all the time. But I realized that I was hindering myself and even self-sabotaging being the CEO, and that I needed to start acting like it, which also means that when I talk to people, I'm not sitting there going, well, yeah, I can help you maybe with that. I mean, I've done it. No, I can help you. I am worth the price. You will get success. It is a whole nother way of looking at it and being and owning it.
Y'all, anybody don't go look at the video because I'm all over the chair. Y'all, because understand.
No, I love your videos, girl. It's real. We need that.
Understand, anybody who's listening to her tonation, if y'all walk away with anything like that, listen to how we're going through this conversation. And she just slightly changed her tone. Now, it ain't bossy, because y'all know sometimes they be like, oh, that lady's a bee. Such and such and such and such. She stood firm. Her shoulders were back. She knew without a shadow of a doubt, this is who I am. This is what I can offer to you. I know my value. Whether you agree with my value and can pay for my value is a totally different story. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But you ask me what I offer. These are the results you're going to get. And this is at what price is going to be. Now, that decision you make on yourself, that's between you and whomever. But you're not going to come over here and tell me as the CEO of my business that I am doing something wrong. That is assertiveness. Yes. That is control. That is power. Doggone it, that's authority. Yeah. And every single one of us, male, female, dog, cat, whatever, right? Because of whose we are and how we were created in his image, because I'm going to go here, we have that authority. Yes. He's given us dominion, right? That's not my words. That's what it says. He's given us dominion in the land. Right. And we walk around, you're absolutely right, we walk around being mousy sometimes. After he's already said, I've given you dominion in this space, this space, this space, and this space. All you got to do is go out and go get it. Right. Which goes back to what you said at the beginning about we so doggone focused on the money instead of the mission. Right. That's where we messing up.
And that's where we will really, when we come to people and like they say your prices are too high, or whatever. The social media is a wonderful and horrible place all at the same time.
Come on, speak on it.
The hate on social media is ridiculous because these people definitely wouldn't say these things to your face.
Right.
But that's the thing. When we feel we need to convince people that we're worth that price, or we are willing to lower it to get them as a customer, we are again abandoning ourselves. And we need to learn that when you stand in that authority and that assuredness, the right customers will come. Don't self-sacrifice and abandon yourself. My daughter, both my daughters were nannies as teenagers because I homeschooled, so they had flexibility to do part-time nannying during the day. And as my oldest daughter, who's 22 now, was growing in that because she stuck with it for many years. Now she owns her own business and we work a collab together too. I would teach her. I taught her, when you go into a house to interview, you are also interviewing the parents. You don't just take any offer. You also, if they say your price is too high, you don't take less because you are worth it. And if they won't pay it, somebody else will. Now, what ended up happening is interesting because she was implementing this. She looked at herself, even though she was being employed as a nanny, as a business owner, and that she set her rates, not what they say, well, we'll pay you this. Totally different mindset going in for a job. Now, not all jobs you can do that, but too many people go in and have what they want, but they don't want to pay it. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And sometimes you do have to accept less, but in your own business, no. But what was interesting that I watched happen as it progressed is when she was 19, she was already making $25 an hour, no taxes. Okay. And so she's making good money and better money than most, even that have college degrees at that point. She's 19 years old. She started nannying at 15. So she got on to like some of these forums on Facebook, and she had nannies that were older and had years of experience, furious with her because of her rate, stating that she didn't have the background, the experience to make that kind of money because they were still making $15 an hour. Well, but they get mad at her. No, she knew how to market herself and how to stand. And most of her clients, of course, were upper end. We did have friends that she would do things and not charge or charge a lower rate, of course, because that's just who she is. But I also knew, raising her up, that she has such a good heart. If she did that, what happens is somebody goes, oh, well, I'm only paying her $10 an hour. And then the next person wants it, the next person, because a lot of the people in the beginning, especially, were people we knew through church, or somebody would recommend somebody, so it came through word of mouth. And her last full-time nanny gig was with a very well-known family. The father used to be in MBA, and but she made it into those circles because of the way she carried herself. And she knew what she brought to the table. Whereas these other nannies that had many more years of experience, rather than looking and saying, well, why am I not being paid that? And she is, they decided that she was a bad person. And so it's like, why? No, you have that ability. We all do. But we have to know our worth to set our price and to stand in it and be okay when somebody walks away and says, nope, I'm not paying it. Good. You just disqualified yourself. They wouldn't have been a good client anyway.
Y'all, this speech right here is exactly why I don't do free consults anymore. Y'all have no idea how long Angie was on me for that. After a while, she was like, behind the scenes, girl, with your credentials and what you know, and why are you still doing okay, I understand you came out full time and you was doing this, how she talking to me. Y'all, I get it. Honey, when you gonna stop? Okay, that's enough. Enough with the free. Offer them something else free. Give them something else free, but that right there, your time.
Yeah.
Stop giving people your time for free with all the experience you have when they're trying to figure out if they want to work with you or not.
Right.
Because like even her talking now is giving me convictions or on conviction or conviction. I know my client's gonna be like, ah! But I have a whole bunch of accountability partners, and Angie is one of them, who have been like, you've got to remodel. You've got to redo some of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
You've got to get out here. You got it. And you'll tell you got to get on social. You need to be on camera. You got to do this stuff because of what you offer and what you bring in your space. And so before we go, because I mean, y'all, this is good. Like really like listening. Because sometimes I don't even go back. I won't lie to y'all. My son works for me. He's on payroll. He edits. He's my producer. And he does the sound. He better because he homeschooled and we sending him. He getting a mass communication degree. He learning all this stuff.
Right.
That's who my production team is. But when I go back and I listen, like I'll go back and I'll listen to the podcast. Believe it or not, my husband will ride and he'll listen to the podcast and be like, "Ooh, I like this point." And this point, I'll be like, "Woo, what?" Going back and listening to this one, I know it's going to resonate with me in a whole different way because Angie has seen when I came out here full time, we clicked, and some of the conversations we've had behind the scenes, and now 2 years later, they're actually manifesting because I stopped self-sabotaging and actually I've decided I want to do. Right now, I know you're on a series of debunking, demystifying the church and divorce, and all these things that they
part of what I'm doing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I see a lot of that. Why now? That's what I want to lead the people with. I really want to know why now, why in this season, is that part of the message that you're giving out heavy? Because I see the comments and I see the people and I know you're breaking through and you're changing stuff. And I know how the church can be.
Yeah. Why now? When I first left, I would occasionally talk about narcissism and abuse. And it was always amazing to me because I had people that never liked or commented on anything that knew me. And, you don't know whose lives you're changing when you're talking about stuff. And so one day there was a leader in this particular church and his wife caught me and caught up with me. And she was like, you gave me the language of what happened to me as a child that I didn't know how to express. Thank you. I never knew she was watching this stuff. So I've seen the impact talking about this, but now I'm coming at it and not just talking about abuse and narcissism, but also really hitting those sacred cows, like you said, the divorce and, breaking it down even biblically, because what I've seen is behind the scenes, there's a lot of women, especially in ministry with husbands that are high up in ministry, and maybe they are too, that are actually, and not, let me say this for those that are like, men get abused too. Yes,
they do.
Yes. And I talk to men too, but predominantly, especially in the church or even as a whole, statistics show that it's women more than men. And I've had many conversations from people that are too afraid to leave, and you just don't understand what it's like being trapped in that, because it's not easy. People always are like, why didn't you leave sooner? I think we need to change the narrative and ask, why does somebody who claims to love you abuse you? And so exactly. And then we get into spiritual abuse. You have so many people that are peddling the God hates divorce mantra. People are staying trapped thinking it's serving God. That's what happened to me. 4 years in, asked for separation, ended up in the hospital after a physical altercation, went to somebody who was a Christian mentor that I trusted, said, I don't think God wants me treated this way. He told me, God hates divorce, go back to your husband. That was 4 years in. So I vowed, which you should never do, to never ask for separation again, because it was my fault that he went crazy because he loves me so much. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it made sense in my mind. But then serving him ended up being serving God, but it wasn't. The marriage became an idol. And that's the problem. So why am I addressing it now? Because one, God has given me a mandate to handle the tough subjects, the tough conversations. I don't care the hate I'm going to get. So a lot of what I'm bringing to the table now with actually a mantle that he shifted on in me that is part of what I already carry, but he has called me to plow. And you can't plow and go after things and be out of the box and help serve people if you aren't willing to have the tough conversations. I had somebody on that, and if it only helps one person, I had somebody reach out to me who currently is separated and told me that she had been struggling, and that's why she'd been in the marriage for so long, and she was still struggling, and that the video that I made breaking down why it's biblical to divorce an abuser and everything totally changed her life, because that was what she needed, because she was feeling so much guilt that she needed to stay with the marriage because it's covenant and all of these things. And so if only one person gets the knowledge and the courage and the empowerment, then I've done a good thing.
Yep.
And they don't even ever have to be a client of mine. It's not about that. But we have too much culture right now. There's so much swirling around. There's so much dishonesty. There's so much deception and stuff. And it's too easy to fall prey to that. And so one of the reasons I am addressing that specific issue as well as others is showing people you've got to think for yourself. You've got to look for yourself, because a lot of what's being peddled is not truth. In the business world, in the church,
come on,
you know, and everywhere, you know. So we really have to learn how to really love the truth and be willing and open to go after the truth. Because I have a lot of people that are so religious, I offend them without even trying. I mean, you know, I recently, you know, made a comment to somebody that when the whole Disney thing came out, I was like, I don't agree with Disney. I don't. And I was like, but why do Christians always want to hold non-Christian companies accountable to you know, be in biblical standard? It's not Disney's job to watch what my children watch. It's my job.
Yeah,
it's my job. And then I said, plus you have to be mindful when you start doing all this boycotting and stuff, because the clothes on your back could be made in a China sweatshop by children, and you can become a hypocrite real quick. Because if we cut off every company that does something, supports something, or then we wouldn't have any place to get anything. We
wouldn't have nothing.
And so, and that person and her husband were very, haven't spoken to me since. And I was, you know, I was just exposed to conversation. And so I hope also through having these hard conversations, I have a friend of mine that he is really breaking down the history of racism, and he's getting a lot of flack, but he's willing to have the hard conversations and get there. That's what we need. We need people that are willing to have the hard conversations, but yet are not judging and condemning you because you think differently.
Or just facilitating the areas.
Facilitating, because I think the problem is in life as a whole, we have taught people don't talk about religion or politics because, you know, of all the friction. And while there are places and people that you don't want to have those kind of conversations with because they can't have an open dialogue, we should have been teaching people how to actually have a healthy disagreement and converse and talk through it, and be willing to even be open enough to challenge their own mindset and say, well, maybe I need to consider this. But unfortunately, too many people are just dug in on what they say, and that's it. And
without having the real foundation as to why that's even their belief.
Right. Just because somebody told them that. I can remember like homeschooling my kids. My mother, who had been raised Catholic, had always told me that suicide was like the unforgivable death. Well, I was homeschooling my kids in the early years and realized that it's not actually in the Bible, but I had believed it for years. Now that's a biblical thing. It can be, you know, in any realm of life, but that's the kind of thing. It's like you can believe it until all of a sudden you're willing to observe differently. And which is here, if I leave everybody with one thing, I would say this: don't create an echo system around you. Because what happens is when you're not talking to people that have different perspectives and don't believe like you do, you're causing, even on social media with what you like, because of the way the AI is driven, you're causing yourself to only be in an environment, it's an echo chamber of hearing back what you believe. And while that, we connect with people that are like-minded and things like that. But if we never open to listen to the other people, then we never get our thoughts challenged. And unfortunately, most people don't want to be challenged because they believe they're right. Now, I will stand firm on my truth, but I'm always willing to look and decide whether or not my truth stays or whether what they're saying needs to be considered. And I've seen in doing that even though we believe differently, it doesn't actually make both of us wrong. We're just seeing it from a different perspective. Yeah.
Come on, Angie.
Yeah.
Y'all, I'm sitting in here, because now we get into the type of stuff like me and Angie, when we do talk and we have our sessions, when we get together, it be all of us. Yeah. And we go deep on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
All the things that we want. Hey, what about this? And how about this? Like the conversations that nobody want to touch.
Yeah.
So we can understand, like, from your perspective, well, how do you see it? Well, I don't think that's fair. Well, I agree with you. I don't think that's fair either. But this is why I don't think it's fair. And we break it down. Mm-hmm. Not that we agree on everything, but we walk away both having something to think about, to be like, you know what, sis, you made me think.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
I did pick up on that, but I didn't see that over there. I'm looking at it a different way. And it may cause me to either adopt some new behaviors, mm-hmm, or say, you know what? No, if nothing more, I'm firm-footed on my position, and this is why I'm firm-footed on.
Right. Yeah.
And to tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Well, my website is Angie Rorrer, that's ROARS, like a lion.com. And also on social media, on TikTok and Instagram, my name is Angie Rorrer _, and my last name is spelled Rorrer. So Angie Rorrer is how you'll find me on Facebook. But and like if you go to the website, you can click on the socials and it'll take you right to it if you're having trouble finding it. And so that's basically pretty much how to, if you want to get on my email list to stay in touch and get some other teaching stuff, you're welcome to sign up for the email list on the website, and I'll be talking to you.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you. When the Bible says for such a time as this, this conversation is going to, whenever anybody hears it, it's going to make them think. It's going to change stuff. And so I'm so grateful for the time that you have given me.
You're so sweet. I love you.
My platform. No, I'm honest to goodness, because I've been dying to be like, hey, what's she gonna get on? What's she gonna get on? What's she gonna get on? Yeah. So we can have the conversation so that they can see. I don't care what you look like. I don't care where you live. I don't care what you've been through. You ain't got to do it alone. And that there are people out here that are willing to love on you just where you are and help you get from point A to point B to point Z if you just allow them. So thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you for having me.
Take your time.
Yeah. I appreciate you.